What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and CreateSpace. Link will be in the description box below, as usual. This video is entitled Feminism Should Protect and Provide. I think I touched on this before, but let's get into it. You know, I think sometimes I hear the phrase over and over again about men should be protectors, providers, builders, maintainers of the community. And I hear it from women. And the bulk of these women have a feminist ideology. And and they always seem to ignore that you want the very same men that you have animosity towards to protect you, provide for you, and build for you. While some of you still follow the ideology, we need to dismantle the patriarchy. And I'm like, okay, if all of this is the case, how come you don't understand that men are not supposed to be your protectors and providers and builders? Feminists are. Your fellow feminist should be your protector, your provider, your builder. And it's like ridiculous to act like, how is that? Well, here's the thing. If you want equality, you're gonna have to build your own equality. And then we're gonna scale back some of this from a historic sense. Excuse me, I ate whatever. People look at black people, my people, and say, you guys want equality, but we built our own towns. We created our own economy. The country and the government got involved in sabotaging and destroying our stuff, fellow Americans. So it wasn't like we didn't separate and just try and do our own thing. We did multiple times. Fighting to integrate was after the multiple tries of separation and building our own economies and towns and businesses and infrastructure and educational systems, all that. That's why you still see all these historically black colleges. They don't have too many hospitals left, but that's why we had all these institutions. But women, on the other hand, you haven't done that. You feminists, not women, feminists in particular, haven't done that. And the hypocrisy of feminism never addresses, if you want this, how come women aren't held with the responsibility of protecting and providing. And what I mean by that, you might be a young feminist. How come the women in the generation prior to you aren't held responsible for not protecting and providing for you? Because, and so on and so forth, the generation prior to that. Maybe the generation prior to that, or the very first generation, I wouldn't say that, because I don't think they were fighting women's suffrage and all that. So it was a little bit different. I think maybe in the last 40, 50 years, people from that era should know this by now. And they should have implemented this by now. Because you can't say you don't have the money. Because in dismantling the patriarchy, as some of y'all would say, some of you ladies, some of you feminists have been married and divorced. So you have money from that. Whether it's millions of dollars or thousands of dollars. You have money to start your own businesses, organizations that you as feminists can have your own feminist economy and provide for your women. You have the numbers, because it seems to me that the majority of women are either overtly feminist or covertly feminist. Whether they go along with the ideology sometimes consciously and unconsciously at that point. So that means a lot of people have been indoctrinated. Excuse me. That doggone. I've been sick lately. Whatever. There've been government subsidies for women in general, right? But here's the thing. Because it's always men who have to foot the bill. And I don't understand how men have to foot the bill for feminism. I want equality. So give me enough money for equality. I want to be liberated. So give me the money to liberate myself. I want freedom. So build me a free state and build me a free economy. And I need you to work in this economy and give me the money after you're done. But once again, it's like that's not men's responsibility, because there are plenty of women who've gotten with men who had a feminist ideology, who wanted to dismantle the patriarchy, who sabotaged that man's success and that relationship's success and that relationship's building, his providing and his protecting. That whole legacy was torpedoed because of feminism. And then at the end of that, she wants to get a payout. Crazy. And then people wonder why guys aren't getting married, guys aren't committing, guys are completely turned off by feminist ideology, feminism's ideologies. But because ultimately, guys, the patriarchy isn't responsible for feminism. And feminism is too lazy to provide for itself. Too lazy to build for itself. Too lazy to have an enforcement arm for itself. And thus, this is why in some ways it's not completely taken seriously, because the very things that feminism wants and asks for, the feminist doesn't want to do. And you see this even in the white community, the Caucasian community, however you want to call it, mainstream America, where you have women on one end of feminism and like, this is what we want, blah blah blah, and you have other women like, I ain't riding with you. Because ultimately, I think those women know, they may like it in the patriarchal setting, but also they know that the women that are screaming the loudest and want the most equality are going to be sitting on the couch when it's time to put in the work. There will be no feminists laying foundations, digging ditches, setting up electrical grids, building apartment complexes and homes and subdivisions and all of these amenities these women will want. There will be no women making glass and and bricks and putting up homes and structures brick by brick and using mortar. None of that. You know, there would be no feminist engineers constructing cars and none of that. You know, and using that ideology of, you know, I got an education. The education part of it says it all, because you have the most education that you've ever had, but you're putting forth the least. You're using your brain power. You're not using your brain power at all to actively separate yourself with an economy or in businesses and land and nothing. Inventions, nothing. It's all you know, just superficial talking points. And you know, but nobody. Okay, anyway, I was about to say something else. But nobody calls this the task, because when you ask the question, why aren't they putting in the work to get the equality that they want? When they win, whether it's a family court win or a governmental win or a hiring win or infiltrating infiltrating a structure or business or whatever in diversifying it with more women. At this point, then why complain, you know, about the shrinking of chivalry, the disappearing of chivalry? I mean, this is part of what feminism wanted: equality, liberation, you know, to be able to deal with the responsibility and the consequences of life on your own terms. So if that's the case, why at the end of the day, when it goes well, it's all feminism, and when it goes wrong, we need the men to come fix it? That's not the men's responsibility. That's feminist responsibility. Feminists should marry feminists, and if it doesn't work out, feminists should be on the hook to provide for the women who chose feminism, because for the generations who fell into the ideology, who were indoctrinated with it, the vast majority of them, when it comes to be protected, provided for, and building for, they look towards men. So how are you indoctrinated in an ideology that fundamentally the people who taught it to you aren't responsible for it, aren't responsible for anything that they taught you? When it comes to the fundamental nuts and bolts of life, you have to look at the opposite sex that they indoctrinated you to be adversaries with. Makes no sense. I'm out. Peace.